Hey everyone! If you've ever dived into Genshin Impact, you know the game wouldn't feel nearly as alive without the major factions scattered across Teyvat's 7 nations. These groups aren't just background noise, they really shape the world's history, culture, and the story we all love to follow. Plus, they often surprise us with crazy plot twists and reveal some juicy lore nuggets that keep things exciting. So today, we're taking a closer look at the top 10 factions that stand out the most in Genshin Impact. These aren't just any factions, they're the ones that bring unforgettable characters, deep stories, and a ton of personality to the game. Whether you're a lore junkie or just here for the awesome characters, this list is packed with everything that makes Teyvat feel like a living, breathing world. Let's jump right in.
A very small portion of the audience is subscribed to the channel.
If you enjoy these types of
Please don't forget to subscribe if you like these types of videos.
Subscribe. Enjoy watching. Alright, let's talk about the Yashiro Commission. The cultural heartbeat of Inazuma. This faction might not be the flashiest or the most powerful, but honestly, they hold a special place in the world of Genshin Impact. They're the ones responsible for keeping Inazuma's traditions alive, organizing festivals, and making sure the culture here doesn't just survive, but thrives. And hey, they're led by the Kamisato clan, which brings some serious prestige to the table. You probably know Kamisato Ayaka and Kamisato Ayato, two of the most beloved characters in the game, right? Plus, there's Tomma and Sayu who add their own charm to the group. What's really cool about the Yashiro Commission is how grounded they feel compared to the other factions. They don't have crazy flashy powers or massive armies, but their influence is everywhere in Inazuma's daily life. The festivals and cultural events you see in the game? Yep. That's all thanks to the Yashiro Commission's hard work behind the scenes. It's like they're quietly making sure that the city feels alive and vibrant while the big political and military stuff happens elsewhere. And if you play through the Inazuma arc, you know they aren't just background characters either. They've got a real role in the story, giving you a glimpse into how Inazuma functions beyond just battles and politics. Honestly, they're the faction that feels the most human and relatable. They show that running a nation isn't just about power. It's about culture, community, and keeping traditions alive. So, if you're into the lore and want to get a feel for the heart of Inazuma, the Yashiro Commission is definitely where it's at. Let's dive into the Knights of Favonius, the true guardians of Mondstadt, and probably the first faction most travelers get to know in Genshin Impact. These guys are basically the heart and soul of Mondstadt. They keep the peace, uphold the laws, and protect the citizens from all sorts of threats. If you've spent time exploring Mondstadt's storylines, you'll notice just how much revolves around them. They're not just powerful warriors, they also bring a lot of personality and charm to the game, especially with the friendly and sometimes funny interactions between their members and the townsfolk. What makes the Knights of Favonius stand out even more is their incredible lineup of characters. You've got Jean, the dependable and serious acting grandmaster who keeps everything running smoothly. Klee, the adorable little bomb expert who can light up any fight. And Kea, the mysterious cavalry captain with a sharp wit. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Other favorites like Albedo, Eula, Noelle, Amber, Lisa, Sucrose, and even Mika and Varka add so much depth and variety to the faction. Each character brings their own unique vibe, making the Knights feel like a real living group rather than just a faction in the background. Beyond all the fun and character moments, the Knights of Favonius also carry some intriguing story mysteries. Take Varka's expedition, for example. It's one of those plot threads that keeps players curious and excited for what might come next. So, while they are the classic heroic protectors, there's definitely more beneath the surface, blending duty with adventure and secrets. Overall, the Knights of Favonius perfectly capture that balance of heroism, humor, and mystery that makes Mondstadt such a beloved part of Genshin Impact's world. Let's talk about the Yakas, one of the most fascinating and bittersweet factions in Genshin Impact's world, especially in Liyue. These divine warriors were handpicked by the Geo-Archon, Morax, to deal with the darkest leftovers of the Archon War. Think curses, plagues, and all the nasty stuff that could threaten the balance of Teyvat. They were basically the ultimate exterminators of evil, and their power was legendary. Among all of them, Xiao, also known as Alatus, is the last surviving Yaksha, and that alone tells you a lot about how brutal their story is. What really hits you is the tragedy behind the Yakshas. They sacrificed everything to protect Liyue and maintain peace, but the cost was huge. While Xiao continues to fight on, he carries a heavy burden. eternal pain and loneliness, having outlived all his comrades. Even other powerful beings, like the Adepty, hold him in deep respect, showing just how much weight his role and sacrifice carry. You can't help but feel a little sorry for him. He's not just a fierce warrior, but also a symbol of karmic debt and suffering. The story of the Yakshas reminds us that in Teyvat, power often comes with a price. They weren't just heroes smashing bad guys, they were victims of the chaos and wars that shaped the world. So whenever you see Xiao in action, remember there's a whole history of sacrifice and pain behind his stoic demeanor. It's that kind of depth that makes the Yakshas not only powerful, but also profoundly human in their struggles, adding a darker and more emotional layer to the rich lore of Genshin Impact. Alright, let's dive into one of the creepiest and most intriguing factions in Genshin Impact, the Croits Ordo from Fontaine. These folks didn't just stick around playing it safe, they took a wild turn away from their original roots in the Croits Institute when they got wind of the world's inevitable doom. Instead of sitting back and waiting, they went full-on radical with a plan that's as mind-bending as it is unsettling. The brains behind this crazy plan are René de Petrichor and Jacob Ingold. These two masterminds want to stop the prophecy of the world's end by basically merging everyone's consciousness in Fontaine into one single entity. Sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi thriller, right? They got this idea from some ancient civilization called Remuria, which adds a nice touch of mystery and ancient tech to the mix. This faction isn't just about power or politics, it's about the extremes of human knowledge, pushing the boundaries between genius and madness. What really makes the Croits Ordo stand out is how deeply woven they are into the Fontaine storyline. If you've played the Fontaine arc, you know they were central to some of the best world quests in the game, delivering a story that's equal parts thrilling and thought-provoking. They perfectly capture that eerie vibe of what happens when knowledge goes too far. And honestly, that mix of brilliance and danger makes the Croits Ordo one of the most memorable and spine-chilling factions in Genshin Impact's expanding world. Let's talk about the Sumeru Academia. That is easily one of the coolest and smartest factions in Genshin Impact. This is the main hub of knowledge and wisdom in Sumeru, basically the place where all the brightest minds come together. The Academia is made up of 6 Darshans, each one specializing in different fields of study, making it the most prestigious educational institution in all of Teyvat. Beyond just being a school, it's also the main governing body of Sumeru, so it's a pretty big deal politically and culturally. What's really interesting is how much the Academia changes and evolves throughout the Sumeru storyline. You'll see power struggles, mysteries, and even some internal conflicts that really bring this faction to life. It's not just about books and learning. There's drama, ambition, and some serious politics mixed in. And of course, the presence of the Dendro Archon, Nahida, adds a mystical and spiritual layer to the whole setup, making the Academia feel both powerful and deeply connected to the natural world. When you look at the characters representing the Academia, you've got a strong lineup, from Alhaitham's sharp intellect to Tignari's deep bond with nature and Layla's mysterious charm. Plus, with Nahida as the Dendro Archon, the faction feels like the heart of Sumeru's identity. Whether you're into lore, politics, or just love powerful and complex characters, the Academia is definitely a faction that brings a lot to the table and keeps the story fresh and exciting. Let's dive into the world of the Adepty, Liyue's divine beings who add so much depth and mystique to Genshin Impact's story. These powerful figures aren't just some background lore, they're central to the culture and history of Liyue, and you'll see their influence everywhere. Led by Zhongli, who is actually Morax, the Geo Archon himself, the Adepty represent a fascinating balance between the old and the new. They're all about preserving tradition while facing the pressures of progress. That dynamic alone makes their story feel really relevant, almost like a reflection of real-world struggles. What's cool about the Adepty is how diverse their personalities and beliefs are. Some are more traditional, focused on keeping ancient ways alive, while others are open to change and innovation. This creates interesting conflicts and conversations within the faction that add a lot of flavor to the game's lore. Plus, the Adepty boasts some fan-favorite characters like Ganyu, the half-Adeptus secretary with a gentle heart, and Xianyun, also known as Cloud Retainer, who's mysterious and wise. Their stories and roles make the Adepty feel alive and relatable, not just distant gods. Overall, the Adepty are one of the most important and beloved factions in Genshin Impact. They've been featured in tons of events and quests, constantly shaping how we see Liyue. Their presence reminds us that behind the bustling city. Let's chat about the Hexenzle, one of the most mysterious and powerful groups in Genshin Impact's lore. Unlike other factions tied to a specific region, the Hexenzle operate all across Teyvat, weaving their magic from the shadows. Founded by Alice, who's actually Klee's mother, this circle of witches is known for their deep connection to the Irminsul, a legendary tree with ties to all kinds of ancient power. These witches aren't just your average spellcasters, they can create pocket dimensions, which we got a glimpse of in the limited time summer events. It's like they're bending reality itself, and honestly, that's just fascinating. The Hexenzle's members include some seriously heavy hitters. There's Alice, the founder and one of the most powerful witches we know. Then we have Rein-Dieter, one of the infamous 5 sinners of Khaenri'ah and the mastermind behind creating Albedo, the alchemist. Nicole, another key member, rounds out this trio of formidable mages. Even though the Hexenzle hasn't been in the spotlight much beyond special events, their knowledge and actions have ripple effects that are bound to shape Genshin Impact's story in major ways down the line. What makes the Hexenzle so intriguing is this mix of mystery, power, and potential. They sit on the edge of the main story, dropping hints and lore that tease bigger secrets about Teyvat's history and future. For fans who love diving deep into Genshin's lore, the Hexenzle are a goldmine, a secret society with ties to some of the game's most important characters and events. So keep an eye on them, because their story is far from over and will likely bring some wild twists to the game's narrative. Alright, let's talk about the Heavenly Principles, basically the top dogs ruling over both Celestia and Teyvat. These are the big mysterious forces behind everything that's happening in the world of Genshin Impact. If you remember your very first moments in the game, you'll know the Heavenly Principles are the reason Lumine and Aether got separated after facing off against the Sustainer of Heavenly Principles. That moment sets the whole story in motion and hooks you right from the start. Even though the Heavenly Principles don't show up much after that initial encounter, their influence is everywhere in the background. The Cataclysm, which happened 500 years ago and destroyed the ancient kingdom of Khaenri'ah, was caused by their actions. And on the flip side, the Tsaritsa, one of the 7 Archons herself, is actively plotting to take down these rulers, which adds a huge layer of tension to the story. Basically, all the major conflicts and mysteries swirling around Teyvat connect back to the Heavenly Principles in some way. What's really exciting is that the Heavenly Principles are expected to play a bigger role as the story unfolds. Given how central they are to the lore, their eventual appearance should bring some epic cinematics and serious plot twists. So, while they might feel a bit like a distant force right now, they're definitely the puppet masters behind the scenes, and soon enough, we'll get to see what kind of power and secrets they really hold. Let's get into the dark and mysterious world of the Abyss Order, probably the most ominous faction you'll encounter in Genshin Impact. These guys are basically the embodiment of ultimate evil in the story so far. They come straight from the Abyss itself, a place full of shadows and unknown horrors, and their goal seems to be tied to chaos and destruction. What makes them even more intriguing is that the Abyss Order was founded by Clothar Alberich, a name that rings bells for lore fans, but now the group is actually led by none other than the Traveler's own sibling. Yeah, that's right. Your lost brother or sister switched sides and joined the Dark Forces, which adds a whole layer of emotional complexity to the story. When it comes to what the Abyss Order actually wants, things get pretty vague. Their ultimate motives are still shrouded in mystery, with only cryptic references to something called the Loom of Fate. It's hard to pin down exactly what their endgame is, which keeps players guessing and adds to the suspense. And honestly, the fact that your sibling is leading this shadowy faction makes it even more personal and tense. It's like the story is constantly teasing us, dropping hints but holding back the full truth for future chapters. What's clear though is that the Abyss Order isn't going anywhere anytime soon. They're a major threat looming over the entire world of Teyvat, and they're expected to play a huge role in the upcoming Archon quests. If you're invested in the story, keep your eyes peeled. The Abyss Order's secrets and true intentions are bound to unravel in some epic and probably heartbreaking ways. They add that perfect mix of mystery, danger, and emotional weight that keeps the Genshin Impact narrative so gripping. Let's talk about the Fatoule, easily one of the most influential and controversial factions in Genshin Impact. Hailing from Snezhnaya, the Fatoule are basically the Tsaritsa's loyal enforcers, and they've been a major player in almost every nation's story so far. You've probably come across some of their key figures like Arlecchino, Capitano, and Tartaglia. Characters who have quickly become fan favorites for their complex personalities and intense storylines. Whether it's through political maneuvering or outright conflict, the Fatoule always manage to shake things up. What makes the Fatoule stand out is just how powerful and well-resourced they are. They're not just a military force, they wield serious political, economic, and technological influence across Teyvat. The Tsaritsa herself leads with a grand plan to challenge the heavenly principles, though exactly what that plan is remains a huge mystery. Their presence looms large in the ongoing Archon quests, and as the story unfolds, we're starting to see just how deep and far-reaching their ambitions go. But here's the interesting part. The Fatoule aren't just villains or one-dimensional bad guys. Some of their members appear in side quests that reveal a surprising amount of humanity, doubt, and even kindness. These moments add layers to the faction, showing that beneath their tough exterior, there's a complex moral compass at work. It's this blend of power, mystery, and nuance that makes the Fatoule one of the most compelling and unpredictable factions in the game. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.